Have you stopped recently and observed where your life is? In you looking, are you able to identify whether you are the lead player in your story or you are one of the supporting roles? Do you know why you are the supporting role? Is it by choice? Why would you make such a choice that you are the supporting role in your own story? Who's writing your story? Have you looked and see who's in charge of the main script? Do you make the right pauses and the right stopping and the right acting or act that you want in that story? Is it as impactful as you had envisaged before? No. Let's start right there. Have you ever stopped and looked at your story from the beginning to the end? If someone was to ask you to write your obituary today, what will it say? Will it say what you have wanted to say before? Would you have achieved everything that it has achieved before? Granted, we don't live to die. Dying is the ultimate part that we're all going to die ultimately. But in our day-to-day, we don't wake up and say, "Ooh, I want to die, let me write my obituary." No. But an obituary is the final stamp of your life that the people that are staying behind you are going to read. Do you know that 3 generations from now, nobody would know who you are or who you were? If you had pictures, perfect. You will be a memory or something on the picture. 5 generations from you, they wouldn't even recognize who you were. They wouldn't even know who what your maiden name is or your parents' name were. They wouldn't. You would be a reference of that grandmother or of that grandfather. So waiting for your story to unfold in front of you and not wanting to go down the memory lane as a great person that has impacted this this universe in a great form is really a waste of time. Because if I'm asking you, what are you waiting for? Are you able to say, I'm waiting for this to happen on such and such day at this time, and once this has happened, then I will be able to move on to my main story? Are you waiting for a recognition? And from who? Do you know that every one of us wake up with a pain, wake up with something that is so intense to us? When I wake up in the morning, I wake up with something that I am concerned about, with a mountain that I need to move in my life so that I can hop on to the next best thing in my life. Because every human being will face their fair amount of challenges and obstacles. But as I said in my previous vids and in my previous conversations with you, an obstacle is not a stop. An obstacle is not something or someone saying, you stop right there. So waiting for the obstacle to move without you wanting to move it, you might as well just sit and die. Waiting for a recognition or for a pat on the back from that very person that is facing his or her own obstacles is just as bad. Why am I saying so? Because you know your story. You know your dream. You are the author of your story. If you are looking into your story and observing the main characters in your story, you need to see you as the main character in the story. As an author of your story, you need not wait for anyone to pat you on the back and recognize you before you can say, I'm moving on. No. You can, though, seek advice from people who's walked the same journey as you. You can, though, read books from people who have gone the same journey or similar. That you can do. You have to find a role model. You have to find a mentor. Those are the basics of success that you can incorporate into your life. But I'm saying, if you are waiting and waiting for a pat on the back, if you are waiting and waiting for someone to say to you, now you can take your right step, you can take the next step, then you are not in charge of your story. Then if you are not in charge of the story of your story, I don't think you have the right to sit and complain, because you are waiting for someone to write your story. You are waiting for someone to tell you that it's okay to take the next step. Yet the very same person have got their own challenges and their own obstacles that they're facing on day to day. So what can you do, or what are you to do? If I were you, and if I was really, really in your shoes, I will step back and observe the players in my story. The first thing that I would do is I would make sure that I am the lead. I'll make sure that I am not reactive in how my story is unfolding. I will make sure that the main script of my story is in my hands, and I've got the ability to refresh it, modify it as I see fit in alignment with my vision. I'll have commitment and consistent thinking in how I will achieve my vision. Consistency and commitment is important. And once you know where you're going and you are consistent in where you are going, you do not need anyone to pat you on the back and tell you that you're doing well. Why? Because you know what well is. You know what is awesome. You know what is great. You know what is aha. And you know what is well done. You've reached the first milestone and you can hop onto the milestone because you own the plan. You own the story. You see, many of us have got very polluted cycles in our story. We've got very polluted players and supporting players in our story. Some of those players don't support our vision, and we know it because we're capable of identifying people who are. We know that they're not supportive and they're not playing a good supportive role, yet we keep them. And every time they turn away, we turn away, and we want to dare complain about the impact that they're bringing in our story. We don't. We've allowed them into that story, we've opened the door for them. So there's two things that I would do, or that I do. I would say, you're welcome to stay and be in this story, provided you're playing this and this and this and this role. Why? Because this is my story, and I'm writing my story for a purpose. And I have a vision that I'm getting towards. I have a dream that I want to live. And these are my timelines in living that dream. If you are not able to support me in this role, I cannot have you in this story. Speak to any movie director or movie creator. They select the players carefully because the movie must narrate and project a different story. And if that movie does not, if the players that have been selected are not elevating the core or the objectives of the movie, no director will keep them. What am I saying? I'm saying you are the director of your own story. You need to own the main script of your story. You need to own and vet every player that you see in your story. You need to write their contribution to their story, to your story. And if they are not contributing adequately, as the director, you can mold them to contribute what you want them to contribute in your story. And if they're not willing to do that, get them out of your story. Get other role players or work with the players that you have. It is important. It is absolutely, absolutely important, because if you don't do that, you will live a half dream or not even get to live your dream. You will have that constant mindset where you're waiting for someone to tell you that you've done it. You're waiting for someone that can come to you and say, I think this is the right step for you to make or not. Because you haven't defined your story. Or even if you have defined your story, the story has got too many people that are polluting it. And they're diluting your message. And they're diluting your dream and your vision. So I'm saying to you today that look at what you want your obituary to say. Because 5 generations from now, you'll be nothing but a faded memory. Help that memory to be celebrated beyond the 5 generations of your stay on this planet Earth. Secondly, review the players in your story. Get to understand which player in the story is doing what. And if they are not impactful and meaningful in your story, mold them to where you want to be. If it's those players that have got the wrong skills for your movie, get them out. They need to play elsewhere. They should not play in your story because they are being disruptive to the full creation of your beautiful story. Lastly, do you know what your story is? Have you stopped and observed your story? Can you take ownership of every outcome that has transpired in your story thus far? If not, then you're not in charge, and you need to be in charge. My name is Tsidi. I'm available to help you articulate your story into a meaningful and an impactful story. Get me on Tsidi at imperativejney.co.za. On Facebook, get me on @itj.cd. I'm looking forward to meeting you, and it will be an honor to help you build a beautiful story. Remember to stay purposeful and remain relevant in everything that you do. For now, I'm out. Cheers.